You're listening to the Dibbly-Dobbly podcast. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Let's move on to our next topic and talk about the iconic scoreboard, of course, at Adelaide Oval, which is one of cricket's most iconic landmarks. It's the first thing people talk about when they're referring to Adelaide Oval. They talk about the scoreboard, they talk about the hill. But Trevor, not too many cricket grounds still have old historic buildings connecting to their past. Some that come to mind is Lord's, the Pavilion, the SCG with the members and ladies stands, the Oval in England with its pavilion, and same with Old Trafford and Trent Bridge with their pavilions as well. But if the scoreboard could talk at Adelaide Oval, it would have endless tales to tell, really. It's witnessed so many of the historical moments in Australian cricket, but also in world cricket. Some of the game's great players have had their names on that scoreboard. And the Adelaide Oval scoreboard is very unique. There is no other scoreboard in world cricket like it in the world, really. It's one of a kind, which makes it so special. So, Trevor, tell us the history associated with the scoreboard. What year was it constructed? Who was the architect who designed the scoreboard? And how does the thing work?
Well, the scoreboard was built in 1911. It was the third scoreboard at the Oval. Well, fourth if you count one that was built, taken down, then rebuilt. But 1911 was the Oval scoreboard. The architect was an Adelaide architect called Kenneth Milne, and he's known for building some of the designing some of the interesting buildings around Adelaide that still exist. He got paid £70 for his design. He actually went over to Melbourne and had a look at the scoreboard in Melbourne before coming back and designing the Adelaide Oval one. And when it came time to build it, there was a bit of a dispute between Kenneth and the Cricketing Association. They actually wanted it built on a mound in the other corner of the Oval. He wanted it built where it currently is, and the way to convince the Cricket Association to build it where it was to give them two quotes. And the quote to build it in the other location was a whole lot dearer than the quote to build it where it eventually got built. So the Cricket Association went for the cheaper quote, and it's where it is, and it's been there for well over 100 years, and we think we know that the architect got it right. It cost about £1,425 to build in 1911, and that's about the same price as what a three-bedroom house in Adelaide would have been at that time. So the bottom floor is a bar, and that's always been there. And then above that, there are four levels across which the operators work, particularly during cricket matches. We do use it for all sports that are played at Adelaide Oval. So some of the sports like football, where the score doesn't change as often, you don't need as many to operate, you don't have the names up there and all that sort of thing. So for football or soccer, it only takes two people to operate it. But for cricket, it's four for a Sheffield Shield match, 5 for a test match, and it takes 7 people when there's a T20, when the Big Bash is on, just because things happen so quickly. And they're working across all 4 levels inside the scoreboard. It's a mechanically operated scoreboard, or it was in 1911, and it still is. We haven't changed the operation of it much at all. All the numbers that you see turning around are on rollers, and they're turned either by a handle, or in the case of the total score of the team that's batting, once they get past 99, you actually have to open a little door, pick up a number 1 and slide it into the slot. So you don't get a handle to turn with that. The nameplates are all made for each match. So they're individual letters, a bit like an old Scrabble board. You've got to actually put the letters into it. The nameplates will take between 10 and 12 letters, depending on how big they are, whether they're I's or whether they're W's. So when you have a hyphenated name or a really long name, the operators have to get creative about how they put the name up. One that's currently causes them a bit of trouble is Labuschagne, because you can't fit the whole word on. So I think at the moment he's Lab''Shane to get it all in. And that happens quite frequently with hyphenated names or really long names. They have to adapt to get them all on there. And that's about a 2-hour job to make up the 2 sets of names for a cricket match.
Yeah, 22 players in total, so that takes a very long time.
Yeah. The one modern addition to the scoreboard is the lights that you see when a fielder fields the ball. By modern addition, they were added in 1928. We actually got the idea from the Sydney Cricket Ground. Our cricket team was playing over there, saw they had lights on their scoreboard, brought the idea back to Adelaide and convinced the scoreboard operators to punch some holes in the front of the scoreboard and poke some lights through. They're a bit more secure now and a bit safer, but they're still there. And that's about the only major change to the scoreboard since it's been built, or from what Kenneth Mill designed.
Yes, and it's heritage listed, of course, so nothing can be altered or changed, and it has to remain where it is to this day because it's heritage listed along with the Moreton Bay Figs. Isn't that right, Trevor?
Partly. The heritage listing means that it can't be demolished or it can't be substantially altered, but it doesn't mean it can't be moved. And there was some talk when the redevelopment took place at Adelaide Oval about moving it out to the number 2 ground. Some people weren't sure that it would fit the new ground. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I should say, they didn't get their way, and we've still got it in its location, and it'll probably remain there. The Moreton Bay Figs aren't heritage listed, but they are covered by quite a lot of documentation about care and how they should be looked after. They're pretty safe, I think. I don't think they're going anywhere.
No, it adds to the ground, of course.
Yes, yeah.
And you spoke about players with long names. Ian Chappell, quite interesting story about his nickname, Chappelli. You couldn't fit his full name on the scoreboard, so they just put Chappelli on the scoreboard, and people called Ian Chappell Chappelli after that because of his name on the scoreboard.
It was when Greg Chappell first came into the team, and they had the tradition then of just using surnames, and they had to differentiate between the two of them. So it went up as Chappell G and Chappell I, and Australians being what they are looked at Chappell I, and it just became Chappelli.
Yeah, quite an interesting story there that he tells about that. Ian Chappell, one of South Australia's great players, and we'll talk about that in a minute about the history of South Australian cricket. But the last question before we move on to the next topic, Trevor, has the scoreboard undergone any restoration work? Does it undertake any restoration work on a regular basis? Does it get maintained?
Well, it is pretty much in original condition. In the early 2000s, it did develop a little bit of a lean, and that was probably due to the way the mounds were constructed in the early days. They were just sort of soil piled on top of soil, and the foundations of the scoreboard moved slightly. So it has had reinforcing rods put through it just to stabilise it. Other than that, it's pretty much in original condition.
Well, that's fantastic. And hopefully we'll stay there for many, many years to come. It's over 100 years old since 1911, so hopefully we'll stay for another 100 or so years for people to enjoy and marvel at every time they go to Adelaide Oval. And especially you'll get that on the tours, I'm guessing, Trevor.
Yes, we take people inside the scoreboard and show them how it works.
Yes, they must marvel at how you can operate this such big structure.
It's really a highlight for most people on the tour. It's the wow factor.
Yes, especially with the cricket tragics, maybe. Probably it's an iconic thing in world cricket. So, you got to tick that off the list. You got to go to Adelaide Oval. We've got to have a look at the scoreboard. But it was great to hear about the scoreboard's history and how it all works, and it's quite interesting. Hi everyone, hope you enjoyed our historical series episode, looking back at the history of Adelaide Oval with Trevor Manuel, ambassador and tour guide at Adelaide Oval. If you are interested in visiting Adelaide Oval or visiting the Bradman collection, head over to the Adelaide Oval website, which is in the description of this episode.